There was a major upset in an election, and it means quite a bit. Eric Cantor was the second highest ranking representative in the House, and he lost in his Republican primary to an upstart economist who outspent him about 50-1. What does that mean to the GOP establishment, and why did Eric Cantor lose? How could that happen to a virtual no-name? It's a very big deal, and I'll tell you what it means. It means that the constituents still matter, and Eric Cantor's constituent was not John Boehner, it was the voters. You matter. Phil Bishop's going to talk with me about that in just a minute. Pull up a chair and join us. So House Majority Leader Eric Cantor gets defeated in an incredible election, a primary election. And an upstart Republican that I'd never heard of, unless you listen to talk radio, Dave Bratt defeats Eric Cantor in a race where the upstart economics professor in his first political campaign was outspent, I believe, 50-1. So how is this possible? And it's a big shakeup. And what does it mean for the GOP establishment that thinks they can do any old thing, and just because they have $5 million that they can get away with it? Well, they can't, because ultimately what we've learned is that the constituents, the voters, are really the ones with power. Just ask Eric Cantor. And I wanted to talk about this with somebody who spent 2.5 years in Washington, D.C. as the Deputy Communications Director for the Financial Services Committee, Tho Bishop. Tho, thanks for being with us. I sure appreciate it.
Glad to be here, Burnie.
You've had a lot to say to me about Eric Cantor, and none of it's been very good. What was wrong with him?
Well, Eric Cantor kind of embodies everything that's wrong with the Republican Party in Washington right now. He's out of touch with his constituents, and his entire focus was more towards Wall Street and big business rather than true capitalism and entrepreneurship. He was very arrogant in the way he dealt with other members and other staffers, and his defeat is the biggest victory the Tea Party has had since 2010. It's a major, major ground-shaking event, and it's one that we should all be very excited about.
So in this case, ideas mattered more than the establishment's power and the establishment's money. And when we get back, I'm going to go into details about Eric Cantor and what exactly he was doing, especially with regard to immigration reform, because I think that, I just said reform. Reform means improvement. And Eric Cantor wasn't doing anything for improvement. And you know what? The rest of you establishment Republicans who want to give illegal aliens special benefits and preferential treatment over U.S. citizens, the same thing's going to happen to you. We'll be right back. The Burnie Thompson Show Whiskey Rebellion is brought to you by the Shrimp Boat Restaurant in St. Andrews Bay. Steak, seafood, and sunsets right on the water. Updates on Facebook at the Shrimp Boat Restaurant. Forest Park Animal Hospital. He's more than just a vet for your pet. He's your dog's best friend. Dr. Stephen Favallaro on Facebook at Forest Park Animal Hospital, PA. Gulf Imaging. Have your doctor refer you to the #1 diagnostic facility in Bay County for MRIs, CAT scans, and digital mammography. Gulf Imaging Open MRI. Elevation Salon at the Panama City Mall, where my friend Samantha will make you look and feel your best. These ladies are not just out of beauty school, they're the best.
Find out what's shaking at Lowe's House of Bourbon at the Shrimp Boat Restaurant. Lowe's House of Bourbon, located above the Shrimp Boat Restaurant in historic St. Andrews. Protection, inviting, clarity, comforting. It's your portal to an outside world, and it's probably something you have not given much thought to. Glass is a part of our lives. It's all around us, all the time. The Glass Center has presented the finest in glass installation in Bay County since 1983. From your business to your community, to your automobile, to your home, the Glass Center is the leader in technology and innovation for all things glass in your life.
Gerard Verga fights for justice every day. As a family man who grew up in our community, Mr. Verga wants to bring those values back to our justice system. Vote Verga on August 26th. Political ad paid for and approved by Gerard Verga for judge.
You still matter. We still matter. The voters still matter. And one of the most, I was so excited when I heard that Eric Cantor lost. I've been practicing the Palestinian dance, the happy dance in front of the mirror. And I got a chance to do that because Eric Cantor got defeated. And John Boehner, the Speaker of the House, the only member in the House that was more powerful than Eric Cantor, he had been making fun of voters and conservatives and Tea Party types for a long time. Well, I wonder who's crying now, John Boehner. And Speaker Boehner, don't think that you are immune to it either. You can't do any old thing just because you've got all the money, because ideas matter. And when the Republican Party starts pushing for amnesty, starts doing the heavy lifting for amnesty, you're going to pay a price. And Tho Bishop, you've been saying this, that the Republican Party needs to lead. They need to be fiscally conservative. They need to abide by the rule of law. Right. And they're not doing that. And that cost Eric Cantor, didn't it?
It's true. Eric Cantor kind of embodies the Republican whose conservative credentials are all based on how much he can get under Democrats' skin rather than what he actually wants to do. If you look at his approach to immigration reform, they were not the right solution. If you look at his constituents, again, he was more interested in what Wall Street and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce had to say about policy than the people in Virginia.
Give us examples about that.
Well, he was all about, he was one of the leading advocates for bailing out the banks. He's been very supportive of it's called the XM Bank, which is a big subsidy to Boeing. He actually butted heads with my old committee, the Financial Services Committee, because we were passing real conservative small government legislation that he didn't like.
And who was your boss? It was Congressman
Jeb Hensarling from Texas, who he actually went around to deal with things like flood insurance and how it has prevented his housing reform, which would take care of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
So everything you've named, it's not even insurance.
Yeah.
Flood insurance is not insurance. It's a government program. They're almost $18 trillion in debt.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Right.
How in the world are they going to get money to really pay for people if they need those benefits?
Right. When insurance no longer actually deals with risk and is instead dictated by political fiat.
Oh my God.
It's just like we're seeing with Obamacare. And it doesn't matter what industry it is. It could be healthcare. It could be flood insurance. It could be housing. Whatever. If the government is making the decisions and not actual risk management. Yeah. Then it's a failed product.
Well, I like to say that when it comes to insurance, the considerations have to be factual. They have to be actual, actuarial. That's what it's all about. It assesses the risk, and then they charge the price so that they can actually pay the benefit. But I'll tell you what, when it comes down to politicians just voting on bailing out, basically, their richest constituents on the coastline, it's not a good program. And when Republicans are doing these kinds of things, when Republicans are bailing out the banks, you think about the bank bailouts, the Wall Street bailouts that George W. Bush started in his last year in office. Look what's happened. The big banks have thrived at the expense of the smaller community banks.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if Republicans aren't going to be the ones standing for capitalism, if they're not the ones that are going to say no, government does not have a role here to push for that separation of economy and state, then nobody else is going to do it. And the fact that Cantor leaves that, again, that was his biggest, to me, one of the biggest defining marks of him in Washington. And so Republicans have the opportunity here. They can either continue to follow that path of the big government crony capitalist sort of movement. Or they can change directions. They can actually listen to the people and follow this populist sort of message that David Brat was able to take advantage of and elect someone to represent their party that actually embodies those beliefs.
You know, I've been saying that guys like Eric Cantor, they really acted as though their constituents were the big banks, that their constituents were John Boehner. It was not the people that he was listening to.
Right. Well, I mean, nothing embodies that more than the fact that on election night, while he was getting the results in, he was in Washington, D.C., not in his district.
Yeah, well, his internal polling showed he was up 30%.
Yep. Well, the idea that Republican consultants could be wrong about an election, don't tell Karl Rove that.
Yeah, it was incredibly arrogant, wasn't it? His approach to this, he had $5 million to Brat's $100,000. And so he thought he could do any old thing, including, by the way, pushing for preferential treatment for illegal aliens and calling it immigration reform. He, along with Paul Ryan and Speaker Boehner, behind closed doors are doing things that I think would shock you. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as well with Tho Bishop and how that's costing Republicans. I've been saying for a long time, it's time for the Republican Party to stop being the lesser of two evils and start being the good choice, because nobody's going to stand against the Democrat destruction if that's not the case. I don't like being critical of Republicans, but we've got to get rid of the Eric Cantors, the John Boehners, the leadership in Washington, if we want to have any improvement at all. And Tho Bishop has spent the last 2.5 years there in the corridors of power, and I want to ask him a little bit about the importance of the GOP leadership changing as well in just a moment. The Burnie Thompson Show Whiskey Rebellion is brought to you by the Shrimp Boat Restaurant in St. Andrews Bay. Steak, seafood, and sunsets right on the water. Updates on Facebook at the Shrimp Boat Restaurant. Forest Park Animal Hospital. He's more than just a vet for your pet. He's your dog's best friend. Dr. Stephen Favillaro on Facebook at Forest Park Animal Hospital, PA. Gulf Imaging. Have your doctor refer you to the #1 diagnostic facility in Bay County for MRIs, CAT scans, and digital mammography. Gulf Imaging Open MRI. Elevation Salon at the Panama City Mall, where my friend Samantha will make you look and feel your best. These ladies are not just out of beauty school, they're the best.
Protection, inviting, clarity, comforting. It's your portal to an outside world, and it's probably something you have not given much thought to. Glass is a part of our lives. It's all around us, all the time. The Glass Center has presented the finest in glass installation in Bay County since 1983. From your business to your community, to your automobile, to your home, the Glass Center is the leader in technology and innovation for all things glass in your life. Find out what's shaking at Lowe's House of Bourbon at the Shrimp Boat Restaurant. Lowe's House of Bourbon, located above the Shrimp Boat Restaurant in historic St. Andrews.
Hi, I'm Darrell Day.
And I'm Burnie Thompson.
You know, we both proudly served our nation in uniform.
And we still serve today on the radio, expanding freedom and protecting the family budget.
And using the airwaves to educate, enlighten, and entertain, and sometimes irritate.
So join us every day and link arms, and let's do our part to restore this republic.
Join me each morning, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
And join me from 11 to 2 on Talk Radio 101. Who's crying now? Speaker John Boehner. Speaker Boehner likes to make fun of the Tea Party types, saying that the people have commandeered the House to try to get their political goals met. I submit that it's the other way around. Speaker Boehner and House leadership have commandeered the people we voted in and for their political gain. And Republicans who are insistent upon putting the party on a slip and slide toward obsolescence, you better take a good look at what happened to Eric Cantor. Tho Bishop, I want to ask you this. How does a guy with so little money be able to get the better message up? Because you and I both believe that ideas change the world. Ideas matter.
Right.
Dave Bratt has the better idea, for sure, than Eric Cantor. But how did he get that message out to enough people to vote for him?
What's the power of modern day politics? Because in today's world of social media, and where it's a lot easier to connect with people, causes beat candidates. And the fact is, Cantor's entire purpose was to promote Eric Cantor. It was, his entire pitch line was, hey, I'm the biggest dog on campus. I'm the biggest guy in Washington. Don't you want to be connected with that?
Yes.
And that's why he can get away with spending more on steakhouses than David Bratt spent on his entire campaign.
That's incredible.
But that doesn't work anymore. And this should really be a very encouraging sign for not just Republicans, but everyone. This is a sign that we can take our party back, our political system back, and that money doesn't matter. And what's really interesting, too, is that David Bratt is a Tea Party guy, but even a lot of the national consolidated Tea Party structures, groups that I like a lot, Freedom Works, Heritage Action, those sort of groups, they weren't even interested in this campaign. They viewed it as an unwinnable. And so even without that DC power, all of that consolidated, again, they do wonderful work, but even if you don't have them on your side, you can still change the world by just being the better candidate, by having the better message, and putting forward the work.
I like it, though. Causes beat candidates. And one thing that Eric Cantor was pushing for as hard as anybody else in the House was for special treatment to illegal aliens. And take a look at what all of these promises for the dreamers are doing. Have you seen the border lately? And how in the world are Ecuadorians and others getting all the way through Mexico into the United States? Well, first of all, I think all rational people would want to come to the United States for a better life, including me. If you were outside of the United States and you could sneak in here, that is the rational thing to do. But that is not how we should enforce laws, or that's not what the rule of law should rest upon, is what other people do. And just because people are breaking the law doesn't mean you should just do away with the law. And this is very important, because I believe that securing the border is just law. It's just law. I don't believe in abiding by unjust, anti-constitutional laws, but I cherish citizenship. And in order to cherish citizenship, you have to have a country. And in order to have a country, you have to have borders. And in order to have borders, you have to enforce those borders. And right now, the incentives being offered to the, quote, dreamers by the president and the Republicans who are playing along with amnesty but calling it anything else under the sun, they're paying a price. Do you think, Tho Bishop, that among voters, I know you're an economist, and that's what you focus on the most, but ordinary voters are furious at Republicans for doing things like wanting to put illegal aliens in the U.S. military for permanent amnesty? I think that hurt Eric Cantor, and I know Dave Bratt campaigned a lot on that, didn't he?
Absolutely, and you see that talking to people. And the fact is that there's this really a real assault on just what it means to be an American. And the problem is here too is that we incentives matter. Going back to economics, incentives matter. And the
incentives matter.
When you create these carve-outs that are not done by any sort of rule of law and are just this ad hoc sort of try to attempt of a solution, well, you're creating a situation that's very anti-family, because you're getting these children being sent here without their families, asked to live on their own, just because of their hope, the desperation that they'll have a better life in America. Yeah. Again, as you said earlier, that's what makes us great, and that's something that we should cherish. Yeah. But doing it this way, you're destroying this family structure, and you're putting these people, these innocent children, in harm's way.
It's not. It is absolutely not merciful to open up those borders. It's actually cruel to open up those borders the way, or to at least not enforce security on the borders. Just look at the children who are piled up, being used. And then the President of the United States is now taking 500 illegal aliens a week and setting them free like stray cats in our cities. This is not merciful. This is causing major problems. And it's against the law, by the way. The president, who took an oath to execute and enforce the law, that's his job, is not only not enforcing the law, he's violating the law. And Tho Bishop, when we talk about incentives matter, they're encouraged to come here for a better life. Right. Rational people would do that. But here's what I see. The president is causing so much chaos that now they're all saying, the system's broken, the system's broken. We need new laws, which means amnesty. When in reality, they're broken. Right. The president's broken. The Congress is broken because they're not enforcing the law.
No, and the problem here, too, is that it's undermining any sort of reasonable idea you could possibly have of a real solution. Again, I think that the immigration system we have now is broken. But until you're able to take those steps of saying, okay, well, we need to have a secure border. If you have no secure border, then it doesn't matter how you solve the legal side of things. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Then we need to say, establish the significance of citizenship. And to me, that requires having English as a requirement. Yeah. Because if you cannot read the documentation of our founders, to me, nothing is more important as an American citizen than understand the concepts of which this nation was founded upon.
And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about why citizenship matters, why I cherish it as much as I do, and why it's important to enforce the immigration laws. If you don't like the current immigration laws, you still have to enforce them. And the legislature can go ahead and write new ones and pay the price for it. Eric Cantor paid a price for trying to do it behind closed doors. And the rest of you will too. And that includes my U.S. Representative, Steve Sutherland, as long as he continues to co-sponsor things like the Enlist Act, which would put illegal aliens in the U.S. military for permanent legal status. Back with Tho Bishop, I want to talk about what ideas America was founded on and the importance of citizenship in just a moment. The Burnie Thompson Show Whiskey Rebellion is brought to you by the Shrimp Boat Restaurant in St. Andrews Bay. Steak, seafood, and sunsets right on the water. Updates on Facebook at the Shrimp Boat Restaurant. Forest Park Animal Hospital. He's more than just a vet for your pet. He's your dog's best friend. Dr. Stephen Favallaro on Facebook at Forest Park Animal Hospital, PA. Gulf Imaging. Have your doctor refer you to the #1 diagnostic facility in Bay County for MRIs, CAT scans, and digital mammography. Gulf Imaging Open MRI. Elevation Salon at the Panama City Mall, where my friend Samantha will make you look and feel your best. These ladies are not just out of beauty school, they're the best.
Gerard Verga fights for justice every day. As a family man who grew up in our community, Mr. Verga wants to bring those values back to our justice system. Vote Verga on August 26th. Political ad paid for and approved by Gerard Verga for judge.
Hi, I'm Jay.
And I'm Katie.
We would like to invite you to Gears for a complete transmission service for only $49.95.
If your car needs belts, brakes, tune-ups, and more, we're the place to come to. We have lifetime warranties on our exclusive Gears transmissions.
Come see us.
Protection, inviting, clarity, comforting. It's your portal to an outside world, and it's probably something you have not given much thought to. Glass is a part of our lives. It's all around us, all the time. The Glass Center has presented the finest in glass installation in Bay County since 1983. From your business to your community, to your automobile, to your home. The Glass Center is the leader in technology and innovation for all things glass in your life.
Citizenship. I cherish it very, very much. And you know, the value of it goes down when more and more illegal aliens flood into the United States. And they do so because our politicians are promising them a better life instead of enforcing the rule of law. And Tho, I want to ask you about they're coming to America because they used to come here for jobs. Mm-hmm. They're really coming here now for more entitlements and things of that nature. But what do you think made America great?
Well, it's the basis of what we are founded upon, the embodiment of the Enlightenment, the fact that we were individual citizens able to seek out our own ends, our own means, that pursuit of happiness, that we were driven for our own individual pursuits and not as a whole. And if you look on through our nation's history, the fact that we were a country of immigrants, I think, was a wonderful thing.
Absolutely.
America should strive to be the all-star team of the world. And if you're willing to come here and work your way up to the top, then we should encourage it as much as possible. But the problem is now is that we have immigration no longer is a matter of allowing people to empower themselves, but it's more along the lines of becoming a political tool from people wanting to promote larger government problems.
Cheap labor and constituents.
And that's
cheap labor and constituents.
And that's the issue too. And there's an arrogance here too with the assumption of whenever we talk about immigration reform, Democrats want to put a highway to citizenship into it. Well, the reality is that a lot of the immigrants that come here, they're looking for a good job. They're looking for a way to help support their family.
Many of them are.
Many of them are. If you look at when Reagan passed amnesty in the 80s, most of about a third of the people there that the opportunity for citizenship did not opt for it. They're putting on these assumptions, they're putting on these requirements that most people coming in here more often than not really don't want. And so it's creating a system where we can't have any viable progress because it doesn't fit the Democrats' real agenda.
Or the Republicans anymore. And I'll tell you this, the biggest problem, I believe, is that the rule of law has been supplanted, as I say, by the law of rulers. When the President of the United States refuses not only to not enforce the law, but when he absolutely insists on breaking the law and setting illegal aliens, 36,000 of them, who were convicted of crimes free, to include murderers and sex offenders, and then say the system's broken. No, Mr. President, you are broken. The rule of law is what we need to return if we have any hope to retain our liberty. I'm Burnie Thompson. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. The Burnie Thompson Show Whiskey Rebellion is brought to you by the Shrimp Boat Restaurant in St. Andrews Bay. Steak, seafood, and sunsets right on the water. Updates on Facebook at the Shrimp Boat Restaurant. Forest Park Animal Hospital. He's more than just a vet for your pet. He's your dog's best friend. Dr. Stephen Favallaro on Facebook at Forest Park Animal Hospital, PA. Gulf Imaging. Have your doctor refer you to the #1 diagnostic facility in Bay County for MRIs, CAT scans, and digital mammography. Gulf Imaging Open MRI. Elevation Salon at the Panama City Mall, where my friend Samantha will make you look and feel your best. These ladies are not just out of beauty school, they're the best.